I would like to call the meeting to order, and we'll go over the minutes of the last meeting. There are a few corrections if you want to tell us what they are.
A few relatively non-material, like nothing's
Okay.
huge, but just making it clear that the call box is indeed it's being removed from the park. Just make sure that's clear, and that relocated doesn't get confusing with just moving within the square. It needs to be,
Okay.
it's definitely out of the park. In terms of the lines, then findings, not the right word. There were no findings, so it's kind of hard to say that those are actual findings. So I'm going to edit that wording there.
Okay.
And then I definitely failed to note in the new business that there were two awards that Noel proposed. One was what I had included, but what I omitted accidentally was the award. Hey, Merle.
Hey, Merle. Hello.
We're going over
This is my third grade.
your third grade class.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Not that I'm an old timer or anything, but
Well, welcome to the third grade.
Oh my gosh. Just there's a second award and I didn't notice, so I'll
Okay.
include that.
Okay. Any other corrections or changes? Does anyone have any objections to these changes?
No, no to accept.
If not, the minutes are accepted. And you might just send out the amended version, so that I
Yes.
like to keep
Yeah.
a copy.
Yep. Okay. will
Thank
do.
you.
Very good. Okay. All right, the first business is this letter that I've been working on for the select high. That's okay, Julia, come on in, okay.
And don't hate me
Oh,
because I give you these. Becky.
okay, thank you. Okay, this is being recorded, by the way.
Oh.
Sorry. All right, we're going over now the letter that this is about the third iteration. I am addressing it to the select board rather than to Chris and to Brian, because the select board is really in charge of town property.
Do
But
you
I
have
will,
hard copies?
I will copy. I sent it to you. It was on,
Okay,
it was
all right.
on the an attachment to the agenda. Anyway, there really, there are not too many changes in here, but I did include something about the landscape designer. I said, please let us know if you will restore Wadley Park to a clean, uncluttered green space in keeping with the terms of the request. The
is there
historic,
anything from it?
I haven't said it yet.
Oh, you haven't said it.
We're-
You aren't hearing it.
I'm hoping to get approval. The Historical Commission would be open to hiring a landscape designer with CPC funds to further improve the site. So that's the addition. Nothing else is really terribly changed, other than making it a little clearer that we really want everything removed from the lawn. So does anyone have any objections to this version of the letter?
No,
You
that's
all,
pretty good to me.
you all had a chance to read it, so,
Is this the October 9th version?
well, it's the one I just sent you. No,
Mhm.
November. I sent you an attachment with the last agenda when I sent the agenda about, I don't know, 5 days ago, maybe. You can read it if you want.
Jackie, could I just ask about the logistics of the moving the cable, the emergency?
That's really not, it's their problem, not ours,
Yeah.
but they'll let us know if they absolutely can't do it, but we're requesting that they do it.
Right,
Okay,
do you think that's going to be an issue?
I have no idea. We'll find out. They'll tell us.
You put it in a house out down in the rock.
Mhm. So as long as does anyone disagree with this letter? Okay, I will send it and I will copy Chris and Brian Joyce.
And us?
And, well, yeah, you've already got
Oh, are
it.
you gonna do an email or?
Yeah, an email,
Okay.
yeah. And I'll send it to each of the members, okay, of the board. Okay, now the webpage,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
did you want to?
Yeah. We had you and I went back and forth recently, but by email about structure. My expectation is that the prohibition contained in the language of the grant from Wadley forbids
Oh.
its construction of a structure,
Right.
placement of a structure. And, and my expectation is that the board is going to say, and this is just kind of, because I've been down this road before. You're gonna say, well, it's not a structure. These aren't structures. Trash barrel is not a structure. The bulletin board is not a structure. The call box is not a
Well, they
structure.
know, I think they know what we're talking about, clutter
Okay,
and
but-
everything, yeah,
Yeah, but Wadley wasn't talking
No.
about clutter.
no,
Wadley said no structures.
right.
And the point I'm trying to make is that I expect the board to
Mhm.
say structures is a defined term within the meaning and the definitions of the bylaw. And it is, it's a zoning
Mhm.
defined term. And I think your response was, well, we need a definition from a 1910 dictionary,
Right,
and I have one.
you do.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the definition of structure?
Having one and finding one are two different things. But if you go to the internet, it's, and you just go 1910 dictionary, you'll get Webster's 19, let me just, I should have found it. Should have printed it out for you. Here we go. This is Practical Dictionary of English Language from Noah Webster. Structure, an act of building, manner of building, form, construction, arrangement of parts, organs, or constituent particles. Manner of organization, a building of any kind, edifice. Strictly speaking, I believe that would apply to what is burdening. That's another term that
Okay,
applies to things on land. So I think a 1910 definition would apply
Mhm.
and would prohibit
good,
what they have placed. But but because I know how these things go, I think I do, they're gonna want this dismissed. They're not going to want to go through the process.
well, we'll
of
push
removal.
back with your
I think
definition.
we should preempt that. I think
Okay.
that's-
Why don't you send me that definition?
We'll do it right now.
Okay, and I will, I'll put it after I'll put a little asterisk, like a footnote on the word structure. And then I'll put in the definition. Is everyone okay with that? Okay,
And a reference to it in the body of the letter that is structure should be defined as it was intended in 1910.
okay, well, you put that, you can,
So, and there's no problem with doing that because we are in quorum right now, so. Any conversation.
all right.
I mean, I just want to, I just want a little correct, I read the letter
Mhm.
and I wasn't here for the last meeting, so really, I didn't get the whole gist of what was, what was said. I kind of, are we not, I understand the concern for the trash barrel,
Mhm.
the bulletin board. Are we also concerned about the placement of the emergency fund?
Well, that's
Well-
what it's addressed in the letter. We tell them to, we ask them to put it on the other side of the triangle, on the Straits Pond side where the
Okay.
cars are parked. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm sure they will get back to us and we'll have a further discussion, no doubt.
Like cords underneath the grass.
I don't want to, my concern is that, and I've worked for people who have said you don't, one thing you don't want to do is, get yourself in a situation where you're on the front page of the Boston Herald, like Boston Globe.
I'm sure they will be.
And I'm thinking that, I understand what the intent is. I understand what we're asking to do. But I think that it's kind of, maybe the town should, maybe the town should have broached this, or we should have broached this when we first learned that they were putting an emergency phone like there. My concern is that we become this commission, and it was just based on this issue that is really kind of try, what I'm trying to say, that I don't want to really stir up a hornet's nest about an emergency phone. Trash barrel, bulletin board, I understand. Emergency phone, that's a public safety issue, for me at least.
Yeah,
That's not though your responsibility.
You're right.
That's the police and fire and maybe even the town, but tonight, on this board, right,
Yeah,
you're supposed
I'm
to be
just-
representing exactly
I
Mr.
agree.
Wadley. Actually, you're supposed to be speaking to Mr. Wadley.
I realize that,
Okay.
and I feel like, because I wasn't, as I said earlier, I wasn't at that, I guess I'm addressing the issue
Yeah.
because I wasn't at that meeting.
I'm sure they're not going to.
Oh, so
I know,
To take it, I'm sure they will either say, we can't put it.
I'm sure that's
any
what's gonna,
place,
I'm sure that's what's gonna happen,
But we're
Jackie.
not-
Jackie,
no, okay.
I'm sure that,
Yeah.
I'm sure the select board is gonna take a look at this
Yeah.
and say, we can move the trash barrel, we can move the bulletin
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
We're not moving the emergency phone.
Right.
And like, that's it.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know, but I just, because again, I wasn't at last week's meeting. That is this, my concern is that this will turn on us. And then when we want to go do something a little more meaningful, like not to say that this isn't meaningful, but when we want to do something like maybe say expand, be part of an initiative to expand historic districts.
Mhm.
To do something like, to do something else, the town and the people aren't gonna turn on us. And say, well, they went after they went after the board, they pushed the board of select persons to move an emergency phone. I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
I've voiced my own part in that.
She's actually volunteered to do this letter with only her own signature on it.
No,
You wanna see
no,
guts?
no,
That's
no.
guts. She's not worried about blowback.
I'm just,
And
again,
I
I
think
I wasn't at last month's meeting, I've said my piece, and that's it.
this
Okay,
is gonna be dismissed as quickly
Okay.
I'm
as.
sure
No,
will be.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I didn't say, I said, okay, the park was cleaned up for the emergency call box ceremony, but it's now again littered with signs, a trash barrel, a bulletin board, what appear to be surveyor stakes, and weeds growing in piles of rocks. I will say, please remove these things for the lawn. The call box could be relocated to the Straits Pond side where cars parked. How's that?
I completely disagree.
I
with
just
you. There's enough weeds. Weeds must be
Okay.
removed.
Leave your letter the way it is,
Okay.
again.
You're just warning me, okay.
I'm just voicing
Yeah, but weeds-
voicing my,
seriously.
opinion, which.
I take weeds out. That's kind of criticism of them.
Okay,
That,
listen,
I kind of have to draw the line. at, 'cause
we'll
that's unfair.
we'll never get this letter out. I'm gonna send it as is, if that's okay with
That's fine.
everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
send it just to.
okay, and I'll get the brunt of the
And we'll see what they say.
disapprobation.
But if they say anything, we'll tell them, no, we've already done it on Warren Pack, because you have a building on Warren Pack, and that's not supposed to be any buildings on Warren Pack.
Okay,
So we've already done it.
okay, well, we'll see what happens, but I will send this off. I'd like to get to the web page now. Megan and I went to speak to Justin Schreier, and he was very cooperative. Megan, maybe you can tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
what he can do for us.
Everything and anything, and he'll do it. I mean, he didn't say no to anything. He said, this is your page. Send me the content, send me the pictures. I'll do it same day. Like, he was willing to do anything. So now that opens up a whole other, now we can do whatever we want with it. We intended to use it mainly to get our brochure out, but now we can talk about how else we want to use it. The first, we have 5 things that we thought we could do pretty immediately on the page. The first one is put up a mission statement. Most of the other pages on the website has their like little mission thing up at the top. That'd be easy enough. Our books for sale. We put those there. The essay contest that we'll be discussing and the other contests that I will be adding to the minutes from last time. We could maybe put information there. The brochure. And then National Registry of Historical.
Well, those are the 6 or 7 places that have been
Okay,
listed in
yeah.
the National Register, like
Yeah.
the Gropius House, the Lothrop House.
Yeah.
Central Cemetery.
Yeah.
So we could,
Just a list of
I think
those,
that's nice.
pictures
I mean,
maybe.
have a picture of those, which
Yeah.
would be nice.
Easy enough.
I mean, and what, if we don't like something, if we feel it's not working, we can always have them removed. It's very flexible, which
Yes,
is really
that's
the
the
beauty of
takeaway.
it all.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
So anyway, that's our report.
I spent some time looking at other towns' websites,
Mhm.
like historical commission websites. Very interesting, in terms of what we have with just our basic nothing, really,
Right.
versus other, we have a really, really good macro space and a lot of other towns don't. And one of the things that I remember we talked about was when we differentiated ourselves from the Historical Society versus the Historical Commission.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure we were associated with the MACRIS procedure and access.
Okay.
So anyway, that's good, but I'm digressing. I looked at Situate, Norwell, Hingham, Rockland, Hanover, Pembroke, Hull, Weymouth, and it's worth maybe all of us or whoever wants to, Marshfield as well, seeing what historic commissions in each of these different towns are doing. Hingham, with a nod to Noel, started an essay contest in 2019.
That's where I got the idea.
Okay. So you know that it was a $500 prize. Hingham also does, Hingham Historic Commissions, everything that I found out has to do with what these towns historic commissions are doing, so it's important. Website, I don't want to take up time because I didn't ask for it. But Hingham does preservation awards, apparently for exceptional homes and projects, and works with new homeowners, homeowners education program.
Because I'd like to point out that Hingham does have a paid professional administrator. So, and many of these larger towns have a paid
Yes,
staff to help, which,
I'm just
yeah, but it's
saying, I
just true.
tried to go
Yeah,
with the
okay,
smaller towns,
right,
just looking at things that might add to our
true.
website. Rockland doesn't have much of anything. That's too bad. They've got a beautiful historic areas. Hanover has GIS, which links you with maps of the town,
Mhm.
which is fun. They also have a quest map. That's something we might want to, I know, didn't we have somebody talking about that? Or was that this?
There's-
oh, I'm
there's-
sorry.
there's-
Maybe it
so-
was the cemetery commission. I'm
I don't know if
sorry,
it's the cemetery commission, there's,
because I'm on that too, so maybe. it was-
I know there's a friend of, there, it's, the Cody's up on,
Yeah,
Bancroft. Katie Holden, Jay Cody, she's involved with, somebody who does quests. Essentially what it is, this person puts together a little booklet. And then there was one through Central Cemetery. Person, so it was like, then the very end, like you answer all the questions. And it kind of takes you through a tour of, Central Cemetery. And there's like, you pull back a rock and there's like a prize or something like that. But that's the only one that I know of that does the Central Cemetery, but
This is
there's one that's
apparently-
all around, there's like those, you have to park the trails that are up in between Indian Trail and Situate, there's one up through there.
Mm.
I know that we've been requested, like Lydia, myself, and we've done test quests around up behind the Abbey and Hingham, and the brook, the old mill that was up in between up in Hingham, like you can see from the train.
Mhm.
It's a fish, there's a fish ladder there. So there's somebody in the area in town, it's either Situate or Cohasset, that put these quests together. And I think there was one for downtown as well.
Well, this I,
Jack, hi, come on in. Grab a seat.
this I just came across in Hanover as a way of linking. If there was one of the many maps they had with their GIS system was linking historic areas, and you could see where this quest was. Pembroke and again, I'm telling you this because this is historical commission stuff.
Mhm.
Pembroke has a salvaging, it's called the Historic Transplant Program, where they, Historic Transplant Program, where they actually go into, this is their commission and their historical society together, go into homes that are about to be demolished and save items and then document them and then say, fine, anybody who wants to come and take these can have them.
Oh, that's so cool.
Because there's no storage space, totally cool.
That's really awesome.
And most of these towns do have the demo delay. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you. Marshfield has a granite marker inventory. We don't have that many, but you know my thing about Thomas, the Killian stone.
Yeah, that's the born, right, yeah.
Those words. And they also have a listing of streets in Marshfield with the origin of the names of the streets.
Well, if you could make a list of
So,
all the
this is just all
suggest,
this- okay.
well, make a list so that we have them.
Okay.
So that'd be good. Lots of possibilities.
But that was
Okay.
just,
Yeah,
as I say, spur of the moment, looking at other historic commissions and what they're doing.
okay, thank you. That's good.
I think the quest that was done, that we had done through Joy Place in around town, those booklets were handed out, the Historical Society were part of that. But I know, those are the only two that I know that have.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Cohasset.
Yeah.
In there at the Historical Society.
Okay, well, does anyone else have anything to say at this point? This is a new idea, so, but
Yeah,
anything else?
I'm just gonna close the brochure portion of it, because that's how we got to this to begin with. Julie and I have the main structure of what's been put together so far, and it's ready to share, just
Great.
to show you all what the content is, the direction it's headed. It's not fully final edited for sure, but, so we'll share that this week over email. Is that
Okay, just email us.
Okay.
Sure, that'd be good, and then we can discuss it next time.
Yeah, okay.
But for now, I want to talk about it, does anyone else have anything to say about the webpage at this point?
Good work.
Okay, thank you.
So is the legwork.
So is Justin our webmaster?
Yeah. He's good. All right, well, Jack Buckley's here to help us first decide whether we want to do a student essay contest and to give us well, some insights as to what's going on at the high school and whether this would actually work. But first I want, Noel, it was Noel's idea, so you present what you have in mind for the essay contest.
First, thanks, Jack, for coming, because he just had surgery last week.
No,
Sorry,
Minor.
was I supposed to keep
No.
that secret?
No,
It was
knee
just-
surgery is still little.
But thank you for coming.
Little knee thing.
Kind of like what Julia did, I thought I would like to do a couple of these things, have other historical commissions done them, and then fed that into the Google search and wound up with kind of a running start for programs where one is for students, one is for things, actually. The simplest way to put it. The idea is that whether a public or private student, a high school student could compete against his peers to provide a narrative or an article or an essay, however you want to describe it, with something of a historical relationship to the town, to this town. Not the town they grew up in, or the town they're going to move, or the college, but something that they could relate to this town, where all the submissions are ultimately, and I just spoke with a librarian about this, would ultimately be combined into a binder that would be kept in this room. And, you know, I'll let Jack make his comments. There's a part of me that said that we could, as a commission, say, look, we'd like you to write about this year. And this would be an annual ongoing thing, or we'd like you to write about that the next year. And I went over that just briefly with Jack informally down at the harbor when we bumped into each other. Because I would like to get something creative that we didn't have our fingerprints on. But the response from Jack was, let me just say, pretty good. It was, kids at this age need guardrails. And I get that. And I you know, I really appreciate this guy's opinion about student-related matters and much more. But that's what this commission, I think, should be really focused on tonight, if they decided to go forward at all, is to what extent we become involved with what the students are providing us. Hands off, hands on, a little in between. Because, and this is year one, if we were to get it going fast enough. And this is something that could be, you know, tweaked over the course of many years, hopefully. But because it's kids and because I don't have a clue what my 28-year-old daughter was really thinking when she was 17 or 16 or whatever.
You probably do.
I do, but I can't repeat it. But he does. Then I thought he would be invaluable, make an invaluable contribution on that score tonight. So without further ado, thank you very much, Jack, for coming. And if you don't know who he is, I'll let him describe his own career in this town.
Well, he has actually been
Of course.
spoken to us, so, but I think everyone knows, among other things, that he was a social studies teacher at Cohasset High. So,
Well, I'm out of the loop, but thank you, Noel. Thanks for the kind words. So Noel called me up and we really just bounced around some ideas and he asked me to come tonight, so I agreed to. The only thing that I really think that I can add to the discussion, or the only thing that I said to Noel that I would share with you, is that we were talking about Cohasset history in the context of a student essay contest. And we started talking about the idea of seeing Cohasset history through the lens of a current event or current perspectives or current thinking. In other words, how is Cohasset history alive and alive in the present moment, and what parts of Cohasset history speak to the present, as a way to just get people to see that there actually are a lot of interesting things. Some are thought about on a seasonal basis, whether it's Columbus Day and Indigenous people, or whether it's Memorial Day and veteran service. But it could certainly be, and I don't know much about the particular chapter in history that I'm going to reference, but I've always pointed out to students that Cohasset had a Portuguese benevolent society. And so that the diversity, my hypothesis would be the diversity of Cohasset was greater in its previous iterations than it is today.
well, probably proportional, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so in other words, my only point is that there's probably no shortage of current events and contemporary thoughts and politics that can actually be connected to local history. And that's all I was. I really do think that was the extent of my conversation with Noel in terms of, something that I contributed to the conversation in saying that if you are going to have an essay contest, put some parameters on it in terms of what the expectations are. You kind of have to build a rubric, so to speak, so that the students know what it is that the commission is looking for, so that those who try their hand at it, should it be a scholarship or, something like that, they have an idea about what it is that they're supposed to do.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question or a comment that they'd like to ask Jack or to?
The only one I have is, they better not be reading history books.
Well, yeah,
Because if they read your history book, they're gonna find out all about the history of the town.
well, who knows, but does Cohasset teach, do any of the high school classes teach Cohasset history? Is that part of the curriculum in any of the classes in Cohasset High School?
Well, I left it, I think the short answer is no.
Okay,
I don't think it's avoided, but I don't believe that it finds any explicit place in the curriculum where it's a stated
it's not,
learning
right.
objective or outcome that students will know at the end of this lesson. But
yeah,
the Cohasset history posters, placards that span founding to early 20th century are in the hallways of the socials.
The date on the town is on everything.
Yeah,
You know, it's on the, we drive into Hangover Cohasset or Hangover Situate,
right.
you know, it's on this flag of the town, so I mean,
Well,
you can't really escape the founding date.
The
have to
topic, excuse me, Mark, the topic for the Hingham essay, which was composed for 2019, was Hingham history pre-1945. That was it.
now,
That's
So-
fun.
you know,
Yeah.
I did call the Hingham Historical Commission, and I spoke to their administrator, and she, first of all, I thought, my gosh, what if we get 25 essays? How are we going to handle this? So I said, how many essays do you get? She said, well, in the past year or two, we've gotten one. I said, well, what's the largest number you got? And then she said 3. Okay,
With the prospect,
yeah.
the $500 prize.
That's right. And she said, I took some notes. She said, the historical commission contacted the private schools in Hingham, and it's probably Derby, Notre Dame, and Fontbonne. They got no response. So anyway, however, she said it's more successful is the Hingham, and they're going to keep on doing it. They get at least one. She said, somebody always comes through with.
So
an
is that
essay.
one student? that will
Yeah,
write that?
one
So one student that will write
Okay.
that paper.
So she said more successful is the Hingham Historical Society. They have an 8th grade essay contest based on a quote by Abraham Lincoln, and it's linked with their Lincoln Day celebration. And she said, it's important to, if you're gonna, award something, to have a lot of people there. And she said that this celebration involves a parade and a keynote speaker who is someone famous usually. And then the kids, each 8th grade class comes up with a winning essay. In other words, say there are 4 or 5 classes in the 8th grade, and the teachers have them write essays, and they choose a winner from each of those classes. And they probably read their thing. And she said that they've gotten, and sometimes it's an essay, sometimes it's poems. Once was a PowerPoint presentation. And she said that, it's a packed hall, and they have 3 cash awards. So, it's she said, finding a good venue and occasion for the award is important, and publicity is important in a large audience. And she said the occasion probably should be linked to Cohasset history. Now, we don't have anything that celebrates Cohasset history as such. However, the Historical Society possibly does, and maybe we could partner with them. I don't know, but you'd have to have a venue for people to get together and who would be interested in hearing kids read or present whatever they have. Those are just thoughts.
The event that you just described takes place at Memorial Day when students from Deer Hill speak at the parade.
Yeah,
They read here.
So.
Well, this was Veterans Day. I couldn't go and Noel couldn't go, so I asked Ralph to go down to the, just last Friday. It was the Veterans Day parade, our celebration. And he said that was really nice. There were a lot of people there. And there was a contest, and I think it might have been fifth graders. And he said, one girl did a terrific job who interviewed a neighbor who was a veteran. And there were a couple of poems and then one or two essays. But this was done through the teachers had them do their presentation. They had them do it as a class assignment, I imagine. And it was very nice, but there were a lot of people there. It was appropriate. The topic was something about veterans, so this was a Veterans Day thing. So
They've been there for the last 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
or more.
yeah, so that's been successful, but you get the cooperation of the teachers, and it's appropriate to the occasion. So, I would be a little concerned about, if we just got 1 or 2 kids writing essays.
I'm not concerned about that. I don't think, my interest was not in trying to promote this commission or to generate non-scholarly work, but to genuinely urge children of an age capable of doing an actual historical analysis, of providing sane to the community in a way that we had not heard or thought of before.
Well, I think
Which means,
the DAR
which
did.
means somebody probably of an age of at least junior year, sophomore, where the reward is the recognition from this commission. And that, if we have some money, great, I'm sure everyone loves money when they're going to college, so. But the award should be worthy of acknowledgement just because this commission said it is. And we didn't choose what that child had to provide us, except insofar as providing some framework. And that would maybe create and get us something unique that we haven't seen before. And that wasn't simple, and that took some time, but the resources are here. No one's gonna have to travel to Washington to get the kind of information I would expect to see generated by this mission between the 2 towns, frankly, and Plymouth County and Norfolk County, maybe their archives. But I would think even just the libraries and the town offices of Hingham Classic, you're going to be able to generate something unique and informative, and hopefully, something worth keeping here in perpetuity. And if we only got 1 or 2 responses, or even no responses initially, okay, but that speaks for itself. We can tweak it, and we can make it a little bit more, add a little more fizz to it the following year. But I'm not interested in promoting this just for the purposes of pushing, any agenda we may have.
Well,
think
I
it's-
don't think I was saying that.
I'm not saying you did.
You just want to get the kids to participate.
But I don't care if kindergartners participate. That's not what I'm looking for.
Well,
And
or
I
high
don't mean
school
to suggest that
students.
8th graders are kindergartners, but I don't think we're gonna get the quality of work that would actually be something I just don't see it unless it's more of a little bit older student.
Could I ask what you would propose as a question or direction for the essay?
I thank you for asking. I never really read the foreword or the beginning of Bigelow's work until recently. And it's fascinating because if you read it slowly and closely enough, Osgood may have been a bigger character. Osgood may have been a bigger participant in the formation of a lot of this town than Bigelow. Might have provided more of an impetus for the historical narrative, that Bigelow relied upon in his work. But because he died before others, a lot of his Bigelow kind of, I think, went forward, where Osgood may have gone before him.
Well, Bigelow, there was a committee appointed, and Bigelow and Osgood and several other rather notable people of that era were on this committee. And Bigelow was the minister of the Second Congregational Church, and he agreed to write this, but he was helped by other committee members who did research and wrote, material for him to use. So,
But my point is, Osgood died during that process. Okay, that changed a lot of, I think Bigelow's narrative is unbelievable. Okay, the detail, thoroughness, unbelievable. I mean, I could read that again and again. Just, it's so informative. Even the geology, it's just amazing. Osgood had a lot to do with that. And Osgood had a lot to do with probably more than we realize.
I think it's Bigelow. I think he might have gone to Harvard. I think he was very interested in geology himself. And there was a very famous geologist that we even read today who was teaching at Harvard. And I think he spoke to this professor at that time. So I think, Osgood, I'm sure, had a great deal. He founded the library. He consolidated the schools into the Elm Street School. He did a huge amount for the town. Plus, he was a minister for about 50 years for that first parish. So he did a tremendous amount. But I think Bigelow really did.
I think that's not a competition. We all know Bigelow, probably more than Osgood. And there's a Sloan, right? I mean, these guys were, in a way, founding fathers, at least of the historical beginning of the town.
So you're thinking.
If I can just jump in here and just add, I think what Noel's saying is important to think about what might be fresh. I can't capture exactly what he said when he was talking of referencing that, don't necessarily know what older students might be able to present. And that's where I was going when I was talking about looking at local history. And everyone studies history to learn about the past in order to better understand the present. And nobody studies history for the sake of studying history without being able to take lessons from that study and that analysis and apply it to contemporary life. Otherwise, the pursuit of history would be pursuit in a vacuum. And there isn't any historian who writes good history without writing it for the current record, for current understanding, current analysis, current thinking, current debate. And it doesn't matter what chapter you look at. And the point that I was trying to make to Noel is that I think that there's a lot of different things. I don't know if the resources exist when you start scratching the surface, but just, examples, I think, fly off the shelf. You look at Bigelow when he was writing in the opening chapter of the Civil War, talking of, characterizing it as Mr. Lincoln's War. Not a lot of people stepping up to volunteer to fight in the war amongst the Cohasset people. Older people were the first, if I remember correctly. He references somebody in the 50s being the first volunteer, but he also references marching down Hull Street with a crowd of people to make somebody take down a Confederate flag. And you talk about an issue that is alive and burning in 2022 still, and that's just one. You look at the Record of St. John, and that's a never-ending story of immigration. So there's all kinds of angles in which the great world intersects with the small world of Cohasset. And
The fishing. Fishing's another, like, we rival New Bedford at
yeah,
one point. For not a
Yeah.
long, not for a long time, but to the point that, you know, we were by and large, we were a fishing community.
We were the
well, the
fourth,
1776 bicentennial publication, because I used to share this in my class. It said that the mackerel industry fell out in part. Now, how it's parceled out and quantified, I don't know. But the mackerel industry in Cohasset fell in part when slaves were no longer the market for selling mackerel, because it was, you know, ground up, fed to the slaves as cheap food. And that's in the 1776 pamphlet.
1976, right?
Yeah,
There was.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the-
Bicentennial.
yeah, I know, it's a 1970, I think, isn't it?
1970.
1970.
For Cohasset.
Yeah, that blue pamphlet
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
little bit oversized.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, I think the other relevant
Oh.
point is, I wonder if Hingham's essay is a second semester senior opportunity,
I,
because seniors have much less motivation. Just as an FYI, I
Yeah,
assume they still do it. The guidance department gives all the seniors a stack of papers that list every single scholarship given in town. A lot of them are very, very simple and they require some effort. Some of them require a couple of paragraphs, but a lot of them do not require writing an essay. And so if you're a senior and you're trying to get as many applications out the door as you possibly can, if there's a heavy lift for $500, you end up doing some cost benefit analysis and that may be one of the reasons. Whereas if you do it, offering it to juniors where they can put something on their resume that they can attach to their college application, it might be a better incentive, might be a greater incentive.
I think Jill has her hand up. Jill taught school at Milton and she was the head of a charter school. So she has something to say. And Jill, can you hear me?
No, I actually don't have my hand up. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I do. I see a little.
But I did teach high school English for a number of years, and I'm just trying to, I've heard a lot of ideas and, I think there's a possibility, but I think we have to think of a lot of things, but one of them is how are we going to motivate kids to want to write something? And I'm also hearing from Noel and Jack that it sounds like you would want a research component to something a student would write, but it has to be, we would have to figure out something to motivate kids to want to contribute. And I don't know if that's a scholarship amount or what that is, but something intriguing to, like a hook to get them involved.
Well, I know that Hingham offered $500 and they struggled to get people. This is the Hingham Historical Commission. They struggled to get kids to contribute. They always got somebody, but often it was just one or at most three kids. So we'd have to work hard. It would have to be well publicized too. My feeling is to be easier if it were a class assignment, so the kids would have to write something. Jack, are you in touch with some of the? Could you find out whether this is something that a teacher in the junior class could assign, or does it have
Are we
anything?
agreeing to?
I would not.
Well,
I would not accept a responsibility of asking a teacher to do an assignment.
yeah, Yeah, that's what I thought too. It'd be hard.
Well, it's just that I mean, it's.
Yeah.
It's an
you know,
added
it-
burden
it-
on.
It is a burden. That's
Right. It's. And if you're volunteering to grade all the assignments, I'm sure the teacher will assign it.
Well, that's it. I mean, you'd have to have a panel, of judges.
Do we have any money for,
We have a budget of $600 for historic preservation, so we can
that's
use
what's
it.
left in an existing?
No,
budget?
it's every year.
Every year, 600?
We can use it for we can use it to print out or to order certificates to acknowledge the winners.
Maybe we should have an agenda item for increasing our budget.
Well, we have to have a reason to.
This is a good
increase it.
reason.
Well, let's see if we're not sure we're going to do it yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Jill is saying that, you're saying money could influence the success of this program, Jill?
Well, it could. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it before tonight, but if there were a list of scholarships open to students and this were one of them, I don't know how Cohasset structures, scholarships, but this would be definitely work for, most of those scholarships are given to students who do things during high school that somebody decides warrants a scholarship. But this would be, this would be extra work to earn a scholarship. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's all in the presentation of how we get kids involved. I think it's a wonderful idea. In one of my schools, we had 7th graders write about Martin Luther King. And then those essays were read out loud and, similar to what Jackie was talking about. And that was an assignment that involved teachers and all the students. And so that was sort of a natural kind of recognition given. But this is the one you're talking about, Noel, is a little bit different and would take some thought as to how to structure it, I think.
Jill, thanks very much. I'm afraid we're going to have to continue this discussion at our next meeting. We actually have to leave now. It's 5 of 8 and we have to be out of here by 8 o'clock, but I'm glad you were able to join us by Zoom, and thank you for your thoughts. And we'll talk about this again next month. Okay. Well, and Jack, thank you very much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we'll be in touch with you. We'll have to decide if we want to do this, and if so, we'll probably need you to interface with us a little bit if we work through the high school. We have to talk about that some more.
So we not meet here anymore if it closes at 8 and we start? at
Well, I
7?
wanted to meet in the front room, but
Booked.
because they had on the first Monday of the month, they had this cake and conversation. They couldn't meet the first Monday, so they meeting the second Monday. And so that's why we're here. I asked for that other room.
Oh,
So normally we would be there. If not, would you rather meet on a Tuesday in the other room? I mean, is Tuesday in case we can't meet there?
Is it always 8 o'clock in this room?
It's 7 o'clock,
I thought
7
it-
o'clock. We meet here at 7.
Yes, but I'm saying, is it always
Yeah,
closed?
the library
library
closes
closes
at 8.
That meeting room on the other side of the
It
door.
stays open and then we
Gotcha.
close the door and that's locks it up.
Maybe
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
make this our room.
I was gonna say, you guys have a
History,
great setup. You
dormitory.
start at 7 and you get kicked out at 8.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
awesome.
We like short meetings. Okay, I'm gonna end this. Thank you, everybody.
You want to know when the next meeting is?
Yes, the next meeting, there is a special town meeting on the second Monday of the month. So we'll be meeting on Tuesday, December 13th. Okay, and we'll talk about this some more, but food for thought.
Is this the history? one?
This is the
Is
history.
history
room, right.
named and.
Yes.